Joey Franchise, Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow. The guy the football world has fallen in love with and have gotten to know over the past 3 or 4 years or so. Burrow is one of the most likable and most charismatic guys in all of sports right now, and that comes with a fiery, competitive game to go along with it. I know it's early on in his career, but I believe it's safe to say that he's a different breed. Dare I say, not human? Shout out to Michael Zember for this video inspiration. I thought I'd take the Not Human series to the NFL since he doesn't really have an NFL commentator counterpart making the same type of videos that he does. As we all know, Joe had his Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl taking on the LA Rams. I can assure you that nobody had the Bengals going to the Super Bowl outside of probably some Bengals fans, and most people didn't even have them making the playoffs this season. But they proved everyone wrong. Joe Burrow and the Bengals were very close to shocking the NFL world. Now you might ask, how is Joe Burrow not human? What makes this guy different? Well, stick around as I'm going to present 5 stories as to why I think Joe Burrow is not human. But welcome back to Just the Facts, y'all. My name is Jimmy, and we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so it would be much appreciated if y'all liked, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe. But enough of me talking, let's get to this video. The best season of all time? We all mainly know Joe from his legendary season at LSU, as it was one that honestly many of us did not even expect to see. Of course, LSU ended up winning the national title. It seemed as if he broke every single record a quarterback could ever break. In 2019, Burrow had a season for the ages, putting up over 5,600 yards through the air, 76% completion percentage, 60 touchdowns with only 6 interceptions. I'm pretty sure if you tried achieving those stats in a video game or something, it would be hard to achieve, let alone doing them in real life. In 2019 alone, he broke the FBS record for the most touchdowns in a season, most total yards in a season, most touchdowns responsible for, and points responsible for. He did this in the SEC, year in and year out, the most talented conference in college football. During the season, he played 5 teams that ended up in the top 10 of the final poll of the 2019 season: Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Obviously going undefeated, and here's his stats in those games. 74% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, which averaged to around a little over 4 a game, 0 interceptions, 2,000 yards passing, which averages to around 400 yards per game, and he also played 4 teams that finished the season in the top 10 defensively according to Pro Football Focus, and those numbers are just as good. 73% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns to 1 interception, and 381 yards per game. It didn't matter who was in front of him, it didn't matter the defense, literally nothing was going to stop Joe Burrow that season. He looked like the Terminator, for crying out loud, and I think he reached the highest peak any college quarterback has ever reached. Number 4, basketball star? Yeah, it's already remarkable enough to see a guy win the Heisman, go number 1 overall, and take his team to the Super Bowl in his 2nd season. But what if I said he was also remarkable as a basketball player as well? Joe Burrow was indeed a 2-sport athlete, as he played basketball along with football throughout his high school years. Unlike other guys, Joe wasn't just on the team, riding the bench, or getting spare minutes or anything like that. This guy was actually a starter on the hardwood as well. He was actually a freshman starter on varsity when it came to basketball. According to MaxPreps.com, as a senior in high school, he averaged 19 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals per game, while leading his team to a school record 22 wins, going 22-3 overall. And also with basketball, he still had the same attitude towards it like he did with football. He had the same drive, the same leadership. In fact, here's how much Joe loved basketball. According to his basketball coach, Jeff Skinner, Joe had attended a passing game camp at Ohio State, and he was there slinging the ball around for about 4 hours or so, then gave an excuse to leave the camp early, hopped in his mother's minivan, and made a 2.5-hour trip across states to be with his basketball team that was about to have a game. And according to his coach, Joe walked in, lacing up his shoes, and got ready for the tip-off. He also mentioned that on the court, Joe was going at guys on opposing teams that were going to be D1 basketball players and going at guys just bigger and stronger than him with no fear in his heart. That's just the level of excellence Joe Burrow held himself to. Number 3, natural born winner. Joe Burrow's game just always seems to automatically elevate him and the guys around him, and that's a sign of a great leader. Think about it. Whenever Joe has been given the opportunity to win, his teams always find themselves in championship situations. Going all the way back to his high school days, he led them to the playoffs in 3 straight seasons and had led the school to their first 7 playoff wins in the school's history. Burrow ended up being a 4-star recruit, going to Ohio State, before being buried on the depth chart for 3 years, and he wasn't given the opportunity to shine. Obviously, he transferred to LSU, and in his first year, he got acclimated to the players, coaches, and overall culture down south in the SEC. LSU, since reaching the championship game in 2011 up until 2019, were underachieving considering they had at least a top 15 recruiting class all those years. In 2019, he changed all of that. They brought in Joe Brady, who ran the offense that fit Joe Burrow's game like a glove. As soon as the pairing came together, Joe Burrow went ahead and won a national championship with a 15-0 record, demolishing pretty much everyone he played against that season. Now that entire year, Joe Burrow's stock shot up to where he was the number 1 overall pick. Cincinnati took him number 1, and he was seen as the savior of the franchise. A franchise that had went 2-14 the year before he arrived, and had missed the playoffs the 4 previous seasons. A franchise that had not won a playoff game since 1991. Ironically, around that same time, the number 1 movie in the United States was Home Alone, which featured his lookalike. All jokes aside, Burrow comes in, he tears his ACL in his first year, the Bengals go 4-11-1, and it was pretty much a wash, although Burrow was playing well individually up until the injury. This season, the surprise team of the league led by Burrow not only made the playoffs when nobody expected him to, but also made the Super Bowl in his first full season as a quarterback. But again, the first real opportunity Joe Burrow gets to take his team to at least the championship game has been done by him at all 3 levels. The most impressive part is that he's done it where it hasn't been expected in all 3 of those occasions. They're all just results of a natural-born leader and a natural-born winner. With room for him and his situation to get even better, there's no telling how great this guy can be in the future. Number 2, confidence and it factor second to none. 2 days before playing in a national championship game versus Clemson, Burrow was interviewed and he basically called himself a national champion before the game even took place. Just watch the video.
Does this look like a Heisman Trophy winner?
Right, it does. Show it to him.
Show everybody. What would you tell this kid right now?
Looks like a national champion.
Now imagine the amount of confidence he has to say that during a televised interview prior to the national championship game. And it's not like they played against a team that was overmatched or wasn't supposed to be there. They're playing against Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers, who had won 29 straight games prior to that loss to LSU. That's just one example of how Burrow's mindset is approaching the game. He has the utmost confidence in himself while keeping it cool emotionally. He has a great knack for uplifting his guys and encouraging them to be even better, even on the basketball court. During the playoff game in high school, one of Joe Burrow's teammates got fouled hard on the play and looked a bit shaken up once the team went in the huddle. Coming out of the huddle, Joe grabbed him to the side and said, quote, "This is a big game. We don't have time for that." The way in which he uplifts his teammates is second to none. He automatically instills confidence in guys in a way we've rarely seen before. For example, in this year's playoffs, Evan McPherson was called upon to hit a game-winning field goal against the Tennessee Titans. Burrow led them down the field, and when it was time to take the kick, before McPherson had walked onto the field, he told Joe and the team, "Well, it looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game." And of course, he kept his word and hit the field goal. Another example, on December 21st, the Pro Bowl rosters were announced, and Joe Mixon had made it. The next day, he tweeted out basically saying he's planning on missing the Pro Bowl because he'll be playing in the Super Bowl instead. Mind you, this was when the Bengals were 8-6 and didn't clinch the division yet. They didn't even clinch a playoff berth yet. Last story, in the AFC Championship game, when they were in the midst of their comeback versus the Chiefs, Burrow was mic'd up and said in the huddle before the drive even started, "When we score, we're going for 2," as the Bengals were down 8 at the time. And guess what? He did just that. You get the point. I could go on and on about how Burrow and how he's so confident in himself irradiates to his teammates to where they're bold and feel very good about themselves. Number 1, against all odds. In November of 2020, Joe Burrow suffered a torn ACL against Washington, which cut his season premature. People honestly forget that Burrow was in fact having a great rookie season despite the Bengals' record as a team not being very good. He was completing about 65% of his passes, on his way to 4,000 yards, while throwing 13 touchdowns as opposed to only 5 interceptions. And immediately, a little over a year, he led his team to the Super Bowl. Not only did he overcome a significant injury to be in this position, he overcame a bunch of outside components as well. In the preseason, the Bengals were projected to have the 4th worst chance of making the Super Bowl as their odds sat at 10,000. Throughout the entire season, the Bengals have been doubted. There were 6 games this season in which his team was at least a 3-point underdog. Joe and the Bengals are 6-0 in those games. And those teams they beat include the Ravens, the Titans, and the Chiefs. Not once, but twice. Not only have the media tried to stack the odds against Burrow, but also his team. Yes, Jamar Chase was worth going that high, at least so far, and breaking the rookie receiving yards record tells it all. But many were skeptical when the Bengals organization didn't elect to draft an offensive lineman to protect Burrow. Despite only playing 10 games his rookie year, Burrow still ended up being a top 10 most sacked quarterback in the league. This season he was the most sacked quarterback in the league, getting sacked 51 times. Even with him being under pressure 24/7, he still led the league with a 70% completion percentage. In the playoffs against the Titans, he got sacked 9 times. And that didn't shake him. He still led the game-winning drive to beat the Titans on the road, only becoming the 2nd quarterback ever to overcome a 9-sack game in the playoffs. The next week, he only beat the back-to-back reigning AFC champions in the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead. Over the last 3 seasons, the only time the Chiefs had lost in the playoffs was to Tom Brady. Not only did Joe march in there and do that, he did that overcoming a 21-3 deficit. And then he faced the team in the Super Bowl with the 4th best odds in the preseason in the LA Rams. But unfortunately, this time around, he wasn't able to beat the odds. This team was supposed to be there. Joe's team wasn't. To wrap this thing up, it's insane the amount of accomplishments that Joe Burrow has achieved over the past 3 years or so. Joe Burrow even being in the Super Bowl was an achievement in and of itself, just because all the odds stacked against him and his team for that matter. Him to go up against the LA Rams and fight and scratch and claw, at least put up a fight, is just remarkable to see. The Cincinnati Bengals are here to stay, mainly because of Joe Burrow, but they also have a really good system around Joe that honestly can get even better. To end this video, I'll leave it off with this. His high school football coach said that he ran Joe on the first couple plays of every single game to get him going because, quote, Joe didn't really get going until he got hit. Joe Burrow loves a good hit. Looking back on the 2018 Fiesta Bowl, before the Legend of Joe took place, he took this hit. And it's safe to say that hit got him going because, well, the rest is history.
But a really poor route from Derek Dillon. Outside Brandon Moore, understanding the route, short route. Dillon doesn't get the depth.